What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Bad and Barred with Avi and Kins. Per usual, this is not intended to be legal advice and you should not take it that way. If you do need individualized legal advice for a situation that you're dealing with, be sure to contact an attorney who is licensed in your state.
Alright, so we started off with hearsay, our hearsay section. And we wanted to talk about how there's a misconception that just because you are a lawyer, you have money.
Right.
Is that the truth?
You're a lawyer. Got the dollars. That's what they say. They say grown up, especially the Africans, honey, they want their kids to be doctors or lawyers. You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be rich.
Right.
And hello, let me pop that myth, because no. First of all, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration. Locality is one. Where are you located? We know that in larger cities you're going to make more money. But let's talk about what a majority of people think of when they think of a lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer, or, you know, some type of public interest who are the public facing lawyers. They make the least. They make the least amount of money. We know that public defenders, right, and district attorneys who work for the state, obviously they're going to make less money because they work for the government. But when it comes to like public interest lawyers, they making 40, 50, 60K in this state. Yeah. And I was not prepared for that when I was in law school.
I think I know it now just because I have lived a little bit and I do understand it. But I feel like being a lawyer, and actually me and some of my like law school friends were talking about that this week, of like how that's one of the professions that you can like get a professional degree in. Right. And if you're serving the underserved population, you have now become the underserved population. Like, you now need a public defender to defend you if something ever happens, because
you ain't got no coins.
You're not making that much money.
I never forget when I was in law school, I said, you know, when I graduate, I'm going to defend I'm gonna avenge these folks who have been discriminated. Like,
okay,
I am standing up for these people their rights. So I was like, I'm going to the public defender's office. Like, those are the people who need the most help. And my 3L year, I went to this public interest like hiring event. Yeah. And their salaries were listed. Ooh. And I saw 50K.
Why did you do that?
I can make that with no law degree.
I mean, honestly, truly, you don't need a $100,000 degree to make $50,000.
Exactly. Why am I going to get a $100,000 degree to go make 50K? Like, you really gotta love what you do. Yeah. My God.
Yeah. And the only advice I can offer somebody is to marry rich then. Because, you know, you have people that are diehard public interest, diehard. They want to go to the public defender's office, legal aid, all this kind of stuff, which is really good, and we need those people. Right. But very rich, honey.
That's so wild that you say that, because when I interned at a public defender's office, and it was all these little young white girls in there, all of them, literally almost everybody in there had married rich. They were married to accountants, brokers, like investors. Yeah. So they didn't even care.
They weren't worried. They didn't care. That was their little side hustle, honestly.
This was for fun.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, black folks in there struggling.
And are doing it really because they feel the call. Yep. It's hard to be a black attorney because I know we didn't even plan to really go into this, but you feel like, okay, a lot of black attorneys are the only attorney in their family. Right. They're the first generation. Yep. Or even in their friend group, or anybody they know. Right. They're the only attorney. And so you feel this calling to go back to your community, to help out your friends, to help out your family, and really advance your community. Right. But you also feel the call to make money. Like, we all want money. Come on now. Like, we all trying to get to the bag. That ain't nothing new. So you really struggle with that. It's a daily struggle too. Like, even in law school, I haven't even chosen, you know, my path yet, but I feel bad sometimes to be like, I really don't want to do public interest.
Exactly. That was me, and that was legit how I ended up at a mid-sized like law firm, because I was like, I gotta make some money. The way that I'm gonna give back to my family is to help us get out of generational poverty. Amen. By going somewhere where I can make some coin. Right. That's my service back to my community. And that was like the mindset that I have. Now, did I later end up in public interest? Yes, I did.
Did you got the call?
I did.
I got that call. She couldn't hang up the phone. She couldn't ignore it. My phone be on Do Not Disturb. Okay? So while I understand that it's calling me, I'm going to turn that right on over. Thank you. Appreciate you.
You're insane. Okay, well, long story short, all lawyers ain't rich. Some of them got a little bit of coin if you are in like a more privatized corporate.
Now that's where the money is.
Corporate law is where the coins are. Now you're gonna sell your soul, working every hour of the day, billing hours, but you're gonna make some money. You're gonna see them 6 figures straight out. Yeah. So let's get into legalese. What are we talking about today?
So today, I'm sure everybody heard about what happened on UNC's campus this week on Monday of, I hate to say active shooter because that wasn't actually what the situation was, but we did lose a professor, an associate professor was shot and killed at the campus on Monday.
I mean, that's kind of an active shooter. Somebody walked onto campus and fired rounds at somebody. And like, you don't know if they're gonna fire somebody else. That's what I think. It's not like a mass shooting.
Okay, well then, maybe that's what
the wording of like, oh, this is a mass shooting. That's
not
it was
true.
Not
a mass shooting.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't an active shooter.
Yeah, they fired some shots.
Shots were fired. Shots were fired, and so I was actually there. I go to law school at UNC. And I was there. It was 1 o'clock. We had literally just started class, and somebody said, oh, we got an email or a text message that said armed and dangerous person on campus. And so I really wasn't thinking much of it because they'll send out messages if, a crime or something happens on campus.
Right.
So I kind of thought like somebody got robbed at gunpoint possibly.
Right.
And, was in the wind. So we didn't really think much of it until about, I'll say like a minute or two later, somebody from our administration came down to our classroom and was like, get out of this classroom. Because we were in a classroom full of like windows. So they were like, get out of this classroom, go to the next classroom. And so I like ran, packed up my stuff. Everybody's packing up their stuff, moving quickly. And so it wasn't until we got into that second classroom, turned off all the lights, boarded up the doors, the windows, and we're like sitting on the floor, Indian style, that I really started getting emotional because I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? Like, this is, I can't believe this.
Exactly.
I'm in an active shooter situation right now. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where this person is. So there was a lot of like, your mind tries to fill in information when it doesn't know something. Right. And so certain people are thinking the worst. But going to Twitter, I will say, is probably the worst thing you could do in those situations. I don't mean to make light, but we were on Twitter because that was the only thing that we were getting information from. And it was like, oh, it's 2 shooters now on campus. Oh, this is happening. Oh my God, this is happening. They're firing rounds everywhere. So
they've arrested him. They've let him loose.
Right. We just did not know what's going on. So like, I'm getting more and more scared, more and more nervous. We're just hearing the person is in different buildings. So, we don't know. They're coming to the law school next, or where are they? Right. So we were actually like sheltered in place, locked down for about 3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours, which was kind of crazy because come to find out, they actually arrested the guy at like 2:30. Wow. He was in custody at 2:30. We were sheltered in place till 4:30. They decided for, reasons beyond me that they wanted to keep people locked down just to make sure, I guess, that they had the correct person, to make sure that there weren't other people, that he might have been in cahoots with. Yeah. Which I can understand, but 2 hours worth of that, where you have people scared and afraid because you're not giving out the information that we need to at least say, like, y'all are safe, or people are safe, Right. I get that they didn't want people just moving about the campus. Right. But it could have been more information. Right. Because I think it created worse in our heads of what was happening than what truly was. So it was scary. It was a scary time. Like, it was definitely a time we hadn't had classes. We were out of class Tuesdays and Wednesday. We went back to class Thursday, but yeah, I definitely needed at least Tuesday to like woosah.
Exactly. Your adrenaline pumping.
Adrenaline was pumping. I was, scared, but I I will say the one thing that it really made me think about, like, thank God, you know, it wasn't worse than it was. It wasn't a mass shooting.
Right.
You know, obviously condolences to the professor's family and all that kind of stuff. But what I will say, it made me think about, like, our children. I don't have children, but just to know that I am almost 30 years old and I'm sitting Indian style crisscross in a classroom scared for my life, thinking, like, what am I gonna do? Like, me and my classmate was like, well, what do we do if the guy comes? Like, do we run? Do we play dead? Like, what are we gonna do? And now imagine 5-year-olds. Like, they don't have the thought process. Their brain can't even comprehend. Like, I couldn't even imagine. It almost makes you tear up to think, like, there are kids out there in those situations, especially like Uvalde and stuff like that, when stuff like that was happening. You know, what went through those kids' minds. It's sad that this has become a new normal, but we still aren't prepared.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it went to show me. Like, these active shooter situations are happening so much more. Yep. But we still aren't where we need to be. Like, there certain classrooms, when I eventually did talk to my friends, I realized, like, some people were just sitting there in class, like, not sure what to do. We had obviously taken the correct precautions, but not every class did, because there was no formal training. There was no information from anybody like, hey, this is what you need to go do. Everybody was kind of doing, like, piecemeal things, like,
that's crazy,
what they could think about to keep themselves safe. Yeah,
that's so wild. Like, I know when it was happening, you texted me and I was like you were like, watch the news, girl. I'm at school. There's an active shooter, and I immediately, like, went into panic mode, because I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean there's an active shooter on UNC's campus? Like, of course I just started praying, and I'm, like, reading stuff on Twitter too, like, trying to see what building he's in, if they're sending live updates. Like, I don't know. I just wanted as much information as I could have in that moment. And so I'm just thinking about that, and then I told Dan, and he's just like, yeah, that's the country we live in. Like, he was not even, and I was like, that's sad, right, that you're desensitized to that. And it's just like, yeah, that's common sense. Like, we were thinking of the fact that the law school's on the outer skirts, so hopefully it's really far. Like, we're just thinking logically. I'm thinking logically through the situation. And then Dan's just like, yeah, this is America. Like, praying to God that Kendall makes it out safe. But unfortunately, like, this is where we live. And, you know, it's crazy that this is happening so often. And then in the state that we live in, there's a law right now pending in our General Assembly to make it easier to get a concealed carry. Like, there are legislators in our state that want people to be able to actively walk around, carry a gun concealed, meaning that you can't see it, without having to have any qualifying things to get to do that. Right. Like, now I have a concealed carry because my dad is big on the Second Amendment, and he made all of us, me, my sister, my mom, like, he made all of us take this class. Right. Like, he scheduled it, paid for it. Now my dad, like, is a CCW teacher. Yeah. Because he wants us to be prepared in these situations. But I had to go through, like, training. I had to take a test. I had to sit with an individual. I had to, like, do practice shooting. Yeah. Like, there were questions about mental health on that test. Yeah. There was, like, an actual screening process, and they want to remove all of that. Like, this law will say that people can carry handguns concealed in this state without any kind of pre-qualification, any type of license to show that they can do that. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, I think it's almost like a catch-22. Yeah. Because these active shooter situations are happening more and more and more, you want people who are carrying more to be able to, because the police are scared. Let's be honest. Some of them are scared to go into those situations.
It's a scary job.
It's a scary job. I don't take that away. My father was a police officer for about 13 years. So I understand, you know, that role, and that can be scary. Also, though, you took an oath, and that is what you decided to do with your life. Right. But that's another conversation. But it's like because I think I might have felt a little more safe if I had a gun on me. Exactly. You know, like, I'm like, okay, we're defenseless in this situation. Right. But if I had a gun, or somebody had a gun, or if the whole classroom had guns, all right, we're gonna battle it out now. You know, like, you think about stuff like that, so it's almost like you need guns because, or, you know, last week also we skipped over the Dollar General situation. The guy who went into the Dollar General and shot the 3 black.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And that's a situation where you're literally just in the store shopping. You like, what you gonna do?
That doesn't even cross my mind. Like when I walk into Dollar General that I'm about to die. But let me tell you what. After the neighborhood shooting in Raleigh, I carry everywhere that I'm legally allowed to. I carry to walk my dog at night.
Yeah.
Because there was a neighborhood shooting where a guy was just walking around a neighborhood killing people, and that was less than 10,
and how far was that from here?
Not even 10 miles away from me.
Yeah.
One of my close friends lived in that neighborhood, and her neighbor was killed. And so I carry to walk my dog. And that's sick to me to think that I need to do that. And there are plenty of people who are like, no, you know, we need to ban guns, get rid of guns. Like, I'm not saying that. But there are measures that we can take to prevent, or at least to stop some of these people from getting guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Well, this is obviously like a highly political debate and conversation. So I really don't want to get deep. Just because I feel like it's almost like politics now. Like, you don't talk about that. Like Christianity, religion, Second Amendment. Like, don't talk about it. But what I will say is that I feel as though I operate in a space of like, okay, yes, we need stricter gun laws.
Right.
That is 100% clear. But if you are of somebody, or if you are of a mind that you want to kill somebody, or if you're the type of person that could walk into an elementary school and shoot children, I want to say
you're going to do it regardless.
The mind is already gone. Like, I don't think they're going to see like, ooh, I can't get the gun here. Let me not do this. You know, there's so much society that has told you this isn't right, don't do this. Like, is the law necessarily going to be the thing that says, okay, now I can't go shoot children?
Well, I do think that there are certain measures that can be put in place, because like the Dollar Tree situation, I forgot the town that it was in, but where they did go and shoot the 3 black people who were in the store, they had already tried to get onto a college campus earlier that day to shoot black people. They went to an HBCU first.
I didn't know that.
Small HBCU. They went there intentionally for the shooting. The security guard stopped them from getting onto the campus because they didn't have the proper identification and access to get on campus.
Okay.
And so they left. Now there are some people who would have probably popped that security guard and kept it moving, but that measure was in place. So there are stricter security that can be put in place, at least for the children. That's something that the two of us had talked about before, to stop, because anybody can just walk on a college campus. Yeah, literally anybody. This is so crazy that this is not your first active shooting. This is your second active shooting situation that you survived. And now both your undergraduate institution and your professional degree, professional institution have both been shot up. Yeah. Both of us went to UNC Charlotte for undergrad, and there was a mass shooting there. Yeah. Killed several students. And
we were gone then. We weren't, we had graduated by that point, but you know, same situation, really. So it's becoming the new normal. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's becoming the new normal, but we still aren't prepared. Right. And what does preparation look like, though? Like, how? Because, you know, I don't necessarily agree that everybody needs to be armed. Like I said, I probably would have felt more comfortable, but I've also, like, worked in law enforcement, and I'm going to law school. You know, I have certain, you know, background that I feel that I could safely carry a gun. I don't own a gun. My father doesn't want me to. It's, you know, weird that your father is like, go get one. Mine's like, absolutely not. Yeah. But he's taking me to the gun range, but he just does not want me to own a gun. But, so I personally don't own a gun, but, you know, it's like, what can we do to put more security measures in place? You know, especially at these schools, you know, I don't know what could be done at the Dollar General, you know, but also we do need that too, like, because these people are now turning what they call it soft targets. So they are turning to stores and malls and places that they know that people gather, and they don't need any type of identification to get on. They're outside of the park. Who needs that? So it's like, what can you do in those situations? But definitely for schools, like, what are more like security measures we can put in place to keep our children safe?
That's a good question. It also comes down to, like, do we want to live in a super surveillance society? I mean, there's already lots of surveillance out there, right? But do we want to have to walk through security checkers every time we walk into a grocery store? Every time your child walks into the school, do they want to be strip searched everywhere we go? Like, do we want to live in this 1984 Orwellian society where Big Brother is always watching? Like, those are questions that are, a lot of people consider when thinking about this whole security measure and increasing in technology. But I think, like, for example, with my mom, she's a school teacher, and she told me this yesterday. I was very shocked. All of the students who enter into the school have to walk through a detector that screens their bags and everything else. And she said it flags, like, certain laptops falsely, right? And so then at that point, her and another teacher, like, they have mornings where the teachers do this, but they go through the students' bags. Oh. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, if I were a parent, I wouldn't really know how I felt about that. Yeah. Like, they have to empty out their bags, and it slows down the process. Now, they don't have these at every door, so some students have figured that out and got around to other buildings on campus to get onto campus, which is a whole other thing. But my mom's like, I don't really feel comfortable, like,
going in their bag.
Exactly, but I have to do as part of the job. And so that made me think about, like, what the children's rights are. And truthfully, like, when it comes to, so our right to not be searched or seized unlawfully comes from the 4th Amendment of the Constitution. The United States Constitution says that we have a reasonable expectation of privacy in certain things. Our body is one of them, right? And so at what point is it okay for you to invade? And so, like, when it comes to law enforcement, there's this probable cause standard, right, that they have to meet. But that standard is lessened in schools. It's reasonable suspicion. Right. And so the rights are a little less for the children in the schools than they are, like, if they were out on the street. Right. And so do the teachers have some natural reasonable suspicion that there could be a gun in there if the detector flags that, like, there's this thing? I think so. And so whether they can just check every student's bag who comes through the door, now that gets tricky, because what reasonable suspicion do you have that I have a weapon? But also, like, I don't know, it kind of makes me feel a little safer to know that
somebody's watching.
Somebody's checking every bag to know that this kid ain't coming in here with the parents' handgun that they have removed. Right. I don't know.
I don't know either. Like I said, I do not have children. So okay, tell me then. If Aubrey comes home and is like, "Mom, my teacher checked my bag today." Now, you've raised your son to be good and wholesome and all these good things. But he's a black man at the end of the day. Yeah. So if he says, "Mom, like, I have a teacher that, like, she keeps checking she's not really checking nobody else's bag, but she keeps checking my bag." Yeah. Like, how do you respond to that? She ain't thought about it like that. I just hit her with a 1-2.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a problem for me. It's gonna be a problem.
You just said you felt safe.
If everyone's bag was being checked.
You think the teachers are checking everybody's bag in the morning? Let's be so for real.
BFFR.
Exactly. BFFR. You know they're not checking every bag in the morning.
No, that's going to be a problem for me. And we know, right, statistically, that when we include law enforcement in schools, the black kids usually get the excessive force used against them, right? Where situations were to be handled in the school, they're now being funneled into the criminal legal system through the school to prison pipeline. The black kids are the ones who are getting searched the most in these schools. So no, that's going to be a problem for me. And as an attorney, they're going to have a problem on their hands.
She's raising hell at that school.
And is.
I feel sorry for the teacher.
I feel sorry for all of my children's teachers, my son's teachers, because...
Yeah. And she one of them ones. She'll write a letter, child. She will write a letter in a heartbeat. Like, I'm be like, just let it go. No. It's never that deep. No, girl. I had to tell. I went to the board. I'm like, how do you even contact the board?
Yep, I reported my son's last daycare to the state. Sure did. If you're listening, it was me. I called him.
Girl, please.
Sure did. Because no, my child's safety is the most important thing. It's already so hard being a parent thinking about all the things that could go wrong when your kid is in a stranger's care. Because truthfully, I don't know that people, I can try to develop relationships with the teachers and stuff, but you don't know
I know them.
You don't. And you don't know everybody who your child is going to come in contact with. And so it's just automatic paranoia and anxiety, dropping your kid off at school. And then to think that there might be somebody who's there with ill intent.
Yeah.
That could be there to harm your child is scary. But no, they ain't nobody going to mess with my child. It's, at least not on my watch. They're going to have a problem.
Not on my watch.
Raising hell in the city.
Well, okay, that's something, we'll leave alone.
Yeah, for sure.
That is up to the legislation and the lawmakers, but we as voters and as, members of a democracy, we have our right to vote and to make our own decisions about these things as well.
Yep.
And so, do what's best for you and your family. Don't leave it to the schools to teach your kids what to do in these situations. Right. You take it upon yourself to teach your children what to do and to make sure that they are at least keeping themselves safe if, the people you entrust to keep them safe just aren't prepared.
Yeah. So it's truly different strokes for different folks. Because in my house, we're going to carry a gap, period. Everybody. That just is what it is. In the grocery store, you see me, I'm locked and loaded. Like that man last night who was coming to the car. Pew, pew.
Oh, girl. Yeah, that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah, that's just is what it is. I stay on ready.
Got to.
So, moving right along. Let's get into girl talk. A little less of a serious topic. Because my God, school shootings are never fun to talk about. But in recent news, Joe Biden, of course, has implemented this new SAVE plan for student loans, right? So we know that Joe Biden tried to wipe out a significant portion of folks' loans, and the Supreme Court came in and was like, not happening. Not going for it. It's unconstitutional. You're not doing that.
Yeah.
So, Joe Biden then comes back and creates this SAVE plan, which I'm like, okay, it's fine. It does save me $100 a month on my payments.
Okay.
But also, he could have done more. There were other avenues. There were other legislative pursuits that he should have looked into to wipe away more debt. That's another conversation, though, because I don't want to get into the law of that, because I get pissed off when I think about the fact that Joe Biden made all these promises. But also, my anger is not rightfully directed towards him. It is the Supreme Court and Congress that I should be frustrated with, because he tried, right? He did try to wipe away some of it. Had we done what we were supposed to do and gotten a woman into office, Elizabeth Warren, she promised to wipe it all away. But that's neither here nor there.
He promised too, did he not?
He said he was going to try to do something.
I feel like he promised. I heard a promise somewhere in there.
Yeah, so with these student loans. So the reason I wanted to talk about this specifically is because 2 nights ago, I logged into the little student aid joint, the website, to set up my SAVE plan, because, we've been on this pause of not paying loans for 3 years.
Has it been 3 years? I guess.
3 years. 3 years since COVID. I haven't had to pay back my loans, and God has been gracious to me.
Amen.
Okay, I was hoping that we was going to get one more push, but Congress told Joe Biden, no, you cannot push it another time. It is what it's going to be. These people got to pay this money back. They created a law that stopped him from extending that anymore. And so I get in to do my SAVE plan, and I immediately spiral into anxiety. This is another political topic, because people are like, if you borrowed the money, you need to pay it back. Heard, understood. However, there were all of these bailouts for all of everybody in America. There were bailouts that we saw during COVID for businesses. We saw so many people take advantage of that, including millionaires.
Right.
There, all of these bailouts, all this money that the government has to give.
The eviction bans.
Ukraine, we done gave $500 trillion to Ukraine.
Right.
And the student aid crisis, it just continues on. You know why? Because if Congress were to eliminate student loan debt, Black people would be the major recipients of that benefit. And they don't want to see us succeed. They don't want to see us come up out of these financial burdens. So I want to talk about these student loans. I have always been in the camp of like, listen, the Lord forgave it and I'm going to keep it moving.
He forgave it all. What's the song? Jesus forgave it all.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, that was me in law school at least. But then now I'm on the other end. I borrowed $100K. I log in. The thing says that if I pay $500 a month from 2023 to 2048, I will be done with my payments, and I would have paid $243K. So more than double of what I borrowed. More than double of what I actually borrowed is what I will pay back. And for the people who are on the camp of like, you need to pay what you owe, okay, fine.
I'll pay what I owe. I don't owe $243. That's crazy.
Yes, that's the interest rates on these student loans. There's no other, there's nothing comparable to that.
Right.
Every time I log into my statement and I make a car payment, I see it drop. I see my balance on my car payment drop. And that's even with interest, because like my car loan had interest.
Right.
But every month I log in and I pay $500 on my car, I see that balance decrease. Every payment I've ever made on my loans, I've seen it go up every time.
You log in, you owe more.
How,
Slay?
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
It pisses me off to the point of no return. And so that's why people say F them loans.
And I am of them, I haven't even looked. Well, I did look when I filled out my new form for this school year. Child, I saw the number. I said, oh. Proceeds to type in how much money I now need again. Like, now I have to add on more to that. But I also am just like, I don't know who's paying them back. But it ain't gonna be me. That's above me now. That is above me now. Like, y'all should, I don't know what y'all should have done. Maybe y'all should have declined me.
Yeah.
Y'all should decline me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not paying them loans back. Like, they're gonna get paid. I'm not saying I'm gonna be delinquent. Somebody's gonna pay them. Now who? That's not my concern. I'm not concerned about that. It just won't be me.
Yeah, I really don't know. If the Lord don't do it, it won't
get done.
I genuinely don't know. Now, I have recently got on my Zoom and filled out my public service loan forgiveness paperwork. I was real slack on that because I was like, I ain't going into public service. I ain't going to be broke for 10 years. And now look at me being a public servant of the Lord. But if you are in public service, right, there's this 10-year provision where if so long as you do this work for 10 years and you make 120 qualifying payments over that 10-year period, then whatever your balance is can get paid off. But that's still a lot of money. That means that for the next 10 years, I have to pay these people over $500. $500 is under the SAVE plan. So let's say that Donald Trump get back in office and say, F you, Joe Biden, and all your laws, and strikes that, my payments go back to what they were. And it sucks because it's based on like my income and my husband's income because we filed our taxes jointly, which I know better for next time. Won't be doing that again.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of money. They don't consider all of the expenses. They don't consider that I got to pay $1,500 in daycare. They don't take that into consideration. They want their money off the top. Off the dump.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I mean, the economy is just wild now. Like, that's a whole other, like, we could have a whole episode about the economy. But
I really feel like I need an OnlyFans. Like, I'm a whole lawyer, and I feel like to survive in this economy, I need to sell some feet pics or something.
So, no, side note though, there's a show on Netflix called Mask Girl, where the girl is like, this is like an Asian show though, but she's not, genuinely attractive, but on, like, at home, she goes and she puts on this mask and she has this, like, show or whatever. I don't know what it is. It doesn't appear that it's sexual, but she just seems to be, like, doing... I'm like, okay, maybe I can get a mask.
Yep. The mask.
Because I don't want you to see my face on OnlyFans. I got things I'm trying to do in life, but yeah, maybe if I get a mask.
The mask stripper, call me that, because what I've considered.
It's almost what you need to do now to be able to make. And we're not even talking about being rich.
No.
We mean just being able to pay our bills.
Yep.
And to be at least semi-comfortable. Like, not just paying enough to be like, okay, this week I'm good, or this month I'm good. Like, enough to be like, all right, and maybe I can get my nails done. Yay. Like, have a little, because honestly though, what's the point?
Yep.
If I'm literally living to pay to live, it almost is like redundant. What's the point of this? What am I doing this for?
I just feel like we got scammed. Who
is we? And what's the scam?
We got God. They told us, go to school, find you a stable career, make the money, like you're gonna be good. And now, my hairstylist, who did not go to anybody's school,
making more money than me.
Making so much more money than me.
Yeah.
Girl charging $300-400 a pop every 2 hours on these heads, rolling them out. That is.
I mean,
she's making well over 6 figures.
Honestly, if you have a trade, honey, like, do that. Okay? Like, I wish we, and hopefully that is what we're getting to in society. But I feel like, especially where I'm from in Wilson, like, there weren't a lot of options.
Nope.
There just weren't a lot of options. It wasn't even like they were holding us back or anything, but there weren't, what else could you do?
Right.
Like, it was go to college or go to the military.
Yeah.
Or I guess go to work somewhere like Firestone, but there was literally nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And so I wish that they would have taught us, and like I said, hopefully they're teaching the children that these days, is like, expand your horizon. It's not even just based off like where you are.
Right.
Like, you don't have to plan for where you are. Now, obviously everybody's situation is different. They might have to stay behind to take care of like sick parents or something like that. But I never, like, it's so many different careers that I discover just like, as an adult. And I'm like, nobody ever told me about, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know this was a thing.
Me either.
And it's like, I wish I would have went to school to do that. Or, I wanted to be a lawyer always, but also it just seemed like a more like traditional path. Or there was
stability.
There was a stable path. Everybody knows how to get to be a lawyer. Like,
right.
You go to undergrad, you get a degree, then you go to law school. And graduate, take the bar, you're a lawyer. Yeah. Like, it was steps already in place to do that. And so, yes, while it was still extremely hard, and it's hard, it was at least I knew what to do. I knew what I had to do. Versus, I see this, career that's like, okay, it looks really cool, but who does that? I don't know anybody that does that. I don't know how to get there. Yeah, what do I major in? What do I. And so, like, I just would encourage anybody and everybody to, like, look beyond your surroundings. But we also didn't have social media like that. Exactly. Like, we had Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but that was literally like social media.
That's just what it was for.
It was literally just for to talk to your friends and laugh and joke and kiki.
Yeah.
Now, TikTok University is a thing. I go on TikTok like, how to button my pants correctly. Literally.
I taught myself how to decorate a fondant cake off of TikTok.
Yes.
No, I'm learning everything on TikTok.
Yes, we didn't have that. So thankfully now the kids do have that at least. And that's even how some of the stuff I've learned. Like, oh, I didn't know that was that. So they have that now at least to, teach them and help them. But honey, do what your heart desires. Like, genuinely, because at the end of the day,
none of this shit is real.
It's not, and that's how I'm living. I'm like, the money isn't real. I'm in my real delusion of like, it's not real, because y'all just gave $65 trillion to Ukraine, and we in a debt. How we in the real world? If your bank account is negative, you ain't got no job. Okay, you don't got no money, you ain't got nothing to give. You can't be like, here now I can loan you money. You have no money.
You're loaning debt.
You're literally loaning debt. Like you can't do that person to person.
Right.
And that's the way my mind comprehends it. So
if the government can do it,
so what the hell y'all doing giving money that we don't got? So obviously it's just numbers. I'm at this point I'm like, this is digital codes that y'all have now inputted and put it in my bank account. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Just principle.
Also, yes. Yes.
Just principle.
And I might be an idiot, but I'm like, isn't it paper? I got some of that. I got printer paper. What y'all want me to do? Y'all need to have, y'all need, what y'all need?
Right.
I got it.
We're not stupid. We understand that like the value of the dollar would change and all the things, right? We're being facetious. But also,
I know that theoretically, I actually do not know what goes on over there. For real, I do think I could give them paper.
Episode 4. This has been real. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Until next time.
Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode. We'll see y'all soon.
Period.